Welcome back to Takeout. Thanks for hanging out with us. Democrats, as you've probably read, heard, seen, big night last night. Virginia, New Jersey, New York City, California. So let's draw some conclusions. Maybe, maybe not. Our reporter panel will do just that, maybe cautiously, maybe ambitiously. Marianna Sotomayor, congressional reporter for The Washington Post. Deepa Shivaram, White House correspondent for NPR. So you were saying to me before we went on the air, Marianna, there's a Republican freakout going on. Describe what you are hearing.
Yeah, well, first of all, when you don't hear much from lawmakers themselves, you know it's because they don't want to talk.
Right.
Because they have a lot of opinions.
Right.
The ones who are talking still privately, I've talked to a number of House GOP and also Senate GOP campaign strategists. And they're starting to say that if Republicans want to win, keep their majorities, a lot of these candidates are going to have to distance themselves from Trump, which is hard to do.
Very.
Specifically on the economy, specifically on tariffs. And as I just said, Trump sometimes cannot let Republicans go. We see so much. And even when it comes to talking about the shutdown, Republicans want Trump to tell them what to do. The ask now is to make sure that they start moving away from Trump. I mean, they also need Trump's money. That's a big thing I'm now hearing.
Yes.
Fundraising is huge now because they're facing these headwinds. They did not know how big it was going to be, and last night showed Republicans the trouble that they are in.
And Deepa, the White House keeps saying the president's raised a ton of money. The midterms are paid for, according to one report I read this morning. They've got plenty of money, but to get it, you've got to keep on the president's good side. And what he said this morning with Senate Republicans arrayed around him for breakfast is, I wasn't on the ballot, so don't blame me, number one. Number two, end the filibuster, which Senate Republicans do not have the appetite for. No. So already this pulling apart.
Right, and it also is sort of a really interesting contrast compared to some of the Democrats' messaging from yesterday that turned out to be really successful was stick to the issues that people want to hear about. The average American is concerned about the cost of living, is concerned about the cost of what it takes to pay for food and rent and everything else in this country. And there were some really successful Democratic campaigns that stuck to that message. You're not really hearing that message from the president and therefore not hearing it enough from other Republicans. And Trump is sort of taking up that space without a message that's resonating with voters, clearly.
And it struck me that in New Jersey, there was a chance, and Republicans thought they had a chance. Not a grand chance, but at least a puncher's chance of beating Mikey Sherrill with Jack Ciattarelli. And they said, it's been a long time, since the 1960s, that New Jerseyans have voted for the same party to run the governorship 3 elections in a row. That was a fatigue factor. Plus, some of the discontent in New Jersey about affordability could have been laid on the feet of the Democratic Party and the Democratic governor. Mikey Sherrill not only dealt with that, but blew out a victory in New Jersey. That seems to me to be somewhat telling.
Absolutely. And I think when you start to really break down New Jersey, even Republican areas that tend to reliably vote for Republicans shifted to Democrats. I think one thing to watch was the Latino communities that are in some of these areas and pockets of New Jersey. They really swung to Trump last year. Now they're voting for Democrats. The one lesson for Democrats, and I've heard this a lot today, is, you know, there's a lot to celebrate. Our message and our strategy is working, but we cannot be complacent and we cannot take voters like the Latinos for granted. Just because they suddenly swung our way, we still have to continue to court them.
Deepa, what is the coming White House conflict with Zohran Mamdani going to look like as the mayor-elect of New York?
It could look like a lot of things. Definitely could get into personal attacks, on, Zohran Mamdani, who identifies as a democratic socialist, as we've heard him say in his campaign. He's Muslim. He's an immigrant. There's a lot of fodder there for Trump and other Republicans on a very personal level. But it's going to be.
Mamdani says turn the volume up. He's like, bring it on.
Exactly. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see this dynamic play out, not only for Mamdani in New York, but I think a lot of other Democrats are sort of watching to see his playbook, post-campaign and fighting with Trump. They're going to have to figure that out all the way up until midterms next year.
Marianna, very quickly, what's the congressional republic of it all in New York? Because if Trump does, as he's promised to do, hold back or cancel funding for many New York projects, transit and otherwise, there have to be some congressional Republicans in and around the boroughs of New York who might not like that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, New Jersey is a perfect example where that threat did play a role.
Because one of those projects bleeds over into New Jersey.
Exactly. A lot of workers who may not be able to work on those projects live in New Jersey. So this is definitely
Not to
something.
mention commute times and everything else.
Exactly. So this is absolutely something that New York Republicans are thinking about. I think had you asked them a couple of days ago, they might not have been as bullish, but just given the results that we saw in New Jersey, I mean, that is going to be significant. They have to pay attention to this more.
Deepa, 30 seconds. Do you think anything that happened last night charges up Democrats as they think about the Senate map, not the House map, next year?
I was talking to a Democratic strategist earlier today who said, some of this momentum and this hope from the election last night, it will go too far for Republicans. It gets in their way, but it might not go far enough for Democrats. And so I think maybe the lesson to take from this is every November is a different November, right? We might be having an entirely different conversation 365 days from now.
You heard it here first. Every November is a different November. I like that. Marianna Sotomayor, The Washington Post, Deepa Shivaram, NPR, thank you so much.